Hi, welcome to Building SaaS. My name is Matt Lehman. Let's get going. We're going to work on our Django app. We're going to continue with some issues that I've got listed here and see how many we can knock out and get on to some more interesting stuff. This is a journaling app that's built with Django, uses Python, it's on the web, it's available for users, and the whole point of this stream, if you've never joined, is to show you how it is to put something on the internet, something that can be paid for. So it's meant to be a pay service. It's got a free trial period, works as a journaling service that works via email. So that's the TLDR, but we're going to jump right back into the actual coding. I think let's change the pace this week. So part of this stream is the fact that I show you everything that changes. Like I don't commit to a single line of code unless absolutely necessary. There was one case that I had to do something off stream, but all the stuff is done on stream, so you see exactly what's going on. And that's true today as well. And that means sometimes we do the things that are less exciting, which includes updating dependencies. So I've got some dependencies we need to apply here, and then we'll get actually to the issues for the day. Most of these things are very minor. This will take maybe a minute or two. Then it'll give us a place to pull from. So let's start from this list and see what we got here. So we're going to bump Django all auth. Ooh, a security notice, but I'm not using Facebook, so that's not a big deal. Oh man, I think Django all auth was the one that's kind of weird where the changelog is. No, it's okay. Not this one, something else. So we're on 63.3, 63.3, and we need to go up to 63.6. Security notice, we're not using social tokens. All right, looks like some security stuff. So we definitely want to apply those. Let's go ahead and hit apply. Wash and merge. Goo. And if you have anything to ask me, the whole point of this stream is to build an app, but do it kind of publicly and deal with any questions you might have. So if you're like, what are you building? Feel free to ask them. Most questions are permissible. I try and keep it within the realm of Python and Django and web development. So, I'm not going to get too deeply philosophical. I'm not opposed to some philosophy, but that's where we're at. And this one's got a merge conflict, so let's let Dependabot rebase that one. Keep moving. Time Machine, what do you got going on Time Machine? Time Machine's just a system tool. Python 30.13 doesn't really affect us, but it's good to get it for when it would. Merge that. And move to the next bit. Let's check out pre-commit, because that's going to be a harmless one. Updating rough. We do constantly. I really feel like we should mess with this so we're not pulling this so regularly, but I feel this might be a lost cause. Lost cause in the sense of their versioning is just constant, so I don't know what to set. What should I wait for? Version 1? Maybe there will never be a version 1. In that case, I would be forever locked on 0.5.2. So I'll just keep hitting the merge button. In the future, you know what we could do? This is interesting. We could auto merge stuff if it passes the test. So one of the things about my project is that I commit to 100% code coverage. And from my perspective, that means that everything gets tested pretty well. So do we want to consider the prospect of automatically merging a change if the tests pass? I don't know. I'm on the fence about that, because I think there could be things that, semantic versioning is weird. There are major versions. There are things I could miss. Hey, John, how are you? Am I not streaming? Not okay. My bitrate seems to be low, but what else is new? So I think I'm still here. I just rebooted all of my internet from last week's experience. It was not so great. Anyway, let me know if something's funky is going on, John. I can take a look, but I'm going to assume that it's not too funky. All right, so we've got more dependencies that we got to fix. We're going to bump the Django itself. So what is Django? Is a security release? Oh, there's some CVEs. Those look, there's a bunch of them. All right, well, let's definitely do that. And I'm not even going to wait for the merge test. These are minor. So we'll do there. And 2 more. Django debug toolbar. Do some kind of crash, something for Jinja. All right, looks cool, looks good. And this is the reality, I guess, if you've never tuned in before. This is reality for dealing with an app. It's not so software as a service. In some idealized view of the universe, you could write a service that is totally automatic, and then you could ignore it for forever, and then you just make money in theory. But the truth is that there's maintenance, there's support. Like, I don't even have that many customers, and as soon as you have customers, then like there are real support requests that can come in. So it's not free. It requires work, and that's just the truth. So I don't want to gloss over the truth, and I'm going to show you like everything I have to do. I have to make sure that I'm being a good maintainer. Now, I'm particularly motivated to be a good maintainer for this because I am a user of this service. So I don't want to have insecure software. So it's on me to make sure that that's all up to date. But frankly, a lot of these changes are boring. There's nothing exciting about them. We read some change logs. We're like, oh, that doesn't really apply to me. It'd be nice if there was a universe where we didn't have to do this. If you listen to podcasts, I suggest you check one out recently. So there's a podcast out there. It's called Changelog. Is that the Changelog? Yeah, here it is. Changelog.com. This is a great podcast. I've listened to a lot of podcasts for a lot of years. And this is one of the ones where they keep it interesting enough and varied enough that I don't get tired of what they talk about. Some podcasts, even ones that I have like historically loved, fall into a same old pattern kind of thing. And there's a rut about it. So if you listen to as many podcasts as I do, it can get boring. This is not one of those, in my experience anyway. So Adam and Jared here, they do some great work. But the reason I'm bringing this up is there was a recent, where is it? There it is. I'm a little behind from where they are at the latest. There's a recent podcast that was done. Hey, Haynes, welcome. By the Changelog folks. That Changelog podcast, the Major Semver Patch. So it was a discussion all about semantic versioning. And what if we could make semantic versioning more meaningful? If you're not up on semantic versioning, it's the idea of you only make breaking changes in major releases, which is the, I guess I have to get into like, I'll put a chat message in there. So if we have a version number like 1.2.3, okay, it's a very common version numbering convention where you have a first number, a middle number, and a last number. The major number is that first number, and it's there to indicate that if that number changes, if we go from 1 to 2, in my example of 1.2.3, then there is some kind of breaking change in the software, and you need to pay attention because something can potentially break your code, and you should be careful about what you merge. The middle number is kind of a common, it's considered the minor version. So this particular podcast title is misleading. It's major minor patch is what the convention is in semantic versioning, what it's talking about. The minor is just like, I'm doing regular releases, so nothing about this should break for you, but I'm adding new features to my library that you can use. So in this, the 1, 2, 3 example, that would be a change from 2 to 3. So you can safely merge that in. The last number in that sequence is considered the patch number. And the patch number is like, oh crap, we found some bug that is a regression, some change in behavior to what used to work now no longer works. And that's a problem. And we want to fix it, but we don't have, we're not ready to like release a bunch of new features. So this is just a quick fix on that last thing that we did. And that's what that patch thing means, the 3 in my example. So a 1.2.3 to 1.2.4 would be a patch release. So the idea is behind that, if you hold by these rules, then what you're indicating is that you're playing by the rules of semantic versioning. And in a perfect world, like, you would only really have to care about semantic version breaks on the major version, because that means that there's some change in the package or library that is going to perhaps break your code. If you go from major version 1 to major version 2, pay attention, because something is going on there. And the challenge with that is it's like really impossible to like, from a purely programmatic perspective, guarantee that something is going to adhere to those rules. So if I'm writing a piece of software, I could say it's major version 1 and major version 2, and there could be no breaking changes. You don't know. Or in the pathological case, the bad case, if I have version 1.2.3 and I do 1.2.4, but I break all the APIs, that's really a violation of semantic versioning, because something in a very minor version bump caused some big breakage. But determining on what is right versus wrong is weird. There's a kind of a principle out there that eventually, if your software is used by enough people, what you think of as bugs might be seen of as like normal behavior. And it even has like somebody from Google kind of coined the term. I'm drawing a blank on the person's name. It's began with an H. I'm not going to be able to remember it, but there's kind of a law, if you will, that if you have enough users, any change you make is going to break stuff. So the whole thing was an interesting conversation about what should we do about this? How should we version things in our projects in a way that could prevent the whole software industry from doing a lot less tedious work? Like the work that I just did going through all of these pull requests. I mean, how much nicer would it be if I could just say, like, I only need to worry about major breaking changes because that's where I have to pay attention, because my APIs could change. If the rest of it is just you're either fixing stuff that you broke or you're adding new stuff that I don't necessarily need, great, go ahead and merge it. I don't care. And so that's the trick, is like, what would we do in pull request? So I'm always wary, because it's almost impossible to do this, at least at the language level. There are some tools that try to detect for breaking API changes, and that's part of what that podcast is about, is how do you detect things that would break your API to determine what your version should be. But those kind of tools are not well adopted by, frankly, anything in the industry. So that's where it becomes difficult. And short of having your entire ecosystem adopt tools like that, you're kind of you can never really trust your packages and how they upgrade. So it's sort of the delicate social balance that comes with using open source software, which is what, frankly, pushes a lot of people to say, I don't want a lot of dependencies. I just want to have a very small set so that I can know that I don't need to worry about that stuff. John, I see your question there. Do I bump my version in Git? So I think we chatted about this in the past. I don't actually, with my application, I'm not using a library here. And so there's no, I have a PyProject TOML, but I'm not versioning anything. So it's not like I'm building a package. So the way that from Heroku's point of view, the way versions are handled is whatever the Git SHA is. So what is it? Git log. Yeah, so this SHA right here is what's going to be considered the version for what I would deploy to Heroku. So there's nothing that I deal with personally. I do have some open source projects that I maintain, but that's kind of a different story, and I don't do a lot with them, frankly. Anyway, overall it's a pretty interesting topic. In fact, a project that I'm working on that I'm not sharing publicly just because I don't really know that it'll go anywhere, but I'll describe it because it's kind of fun. So I'm making this project with Lua. Lua is another language that I like to use. I like to dabble in a bunch of other languages, and essentially, the short version is, if you're coming from a Python ecosystem, is Python has GUnicorn, right? We have GUnicorn, we have uWSGI, another project. We have Uvicorn. We've got a bunch of different servers that run Python applications. And well, this one happens to use ASGI, but uWSGI and GUnicorn are both servers that use the synchronous interface, the web server gateway interface. And the cool part about WSGI is that you can make a web server that can like run with sort of arbitrary applications as long as they adhere to a certain interface. And that interface, being WSGI, is like a protocol of how a server and an app should talk to each other. Nothing exists like that in Lua. And so what I'm doing with this project is literally doing the crazy thing and trying to make a web server in Lua that will use effectively WSGI. I'm using the WSGI protocol as my inspiration. Now it has to be adapted because Lua is a different language, but I'm doing this, and I'm writing C code, which is something I have not done in a long time. I've got my C-based server that's talking to my Lua-based code, and in theory making an application framework. And I brought all of this up because there was a reason behind this. I'm trying to get back to I was started to diverge, and now I need to bring it back in. Why was I talking about this? What I'm doing with this is one of my goals with this project. You can see I wrote a little bit of documentation here to like remind myself about what I'm doing. Is I don't want to pull in any dependency. The Lua universe is pretty famous for not having a very robust standard library. Like for example, there's no way to walk a directory of files and say like what the files are. So you can rely on packages that are out there, but I'm trying to give myself the challenge of, can I implement this from scratch? Where scratch means use the Clang C compiler and use the standard glibc network APIs, and then also use the Lua C API and bang those things together to make a server that works. And the benefit of doing all of this myself is that in this process, there's not been a single moment where I have had to think, what version of a certain package do I want to use? So that has a nice advantage to it. And frankly, it's the downside of having, like, what we're doing here with this SaaS project is I've got a bunch of requirements. And so every time I add one of these, it's a new thing that could pop up in my dependencies file. So, there's a trade-off there of, yeah, some of these things are great. I wrote one of these things myself. I don't know if that's great or not, but it's maintenance. So there's no perfect universe. So I can either do it all myself and maintain everything, or I can deal with the cost of, somebody made some changes that broke my stuff and there's some risk involved there. Anyway, we are pretty far afield from doing any new development, but I felt like that was a good exploration of what we have to think about when we consider dependencies in a software as a service. But let's bring it back in. So cool as that is, let's get rid of the change log. So go check out the change log. It's an awesome podcast. I'm not going to probably talk. Maybe there's to be some universe where I will talk more about my Lua work. I wouldn't do it in this stream. I'd probably dedicate a whole separate stream just to focus on Lua, because if you're like a Pythonista and you're here to learn Python stuff, I don't want to go too far away from that. So let's get back to the Python stuff and focus on the other piece that we need. We've merged a bunch of things. We can pull all of those things, which are ultimately not that many. And then we'll bring in our compilation here, and we'll do a pip install. I've got some C flags in here because I need to install some GraphViz tools, and it needs to point to some C libraries, which are in a different place on my environment. So that's why that is. But it's essentially I just did a pip install of the requirements file, if you didn't see what that command was. So ignore all this junk at the beginning. What you can see really is I'm doing a pip install on those two requirements files. So now we're up to date with our set of packages, and we're getting ready to go with what we need to do. So last time I talked about branding. I don't think we're going to get into branding today, so we're going to leave this one alone. It's unlikely that it will have time to do this. But I think we will spend our time on this item and this authenticated homepage thing. So let's do this one first because I think it'll be smaller. And we'll need to think about how to do this. As a reminder, if you haven't been on the stream before, and I have to say this every time, sorry if you're a regular, like someone like John, who knows what the product is by now, but not everybody does. So this is a journaling service. It works by you sign up, and it will immediately send out an email. And that email says, respond to this, and you will get you'll be able to add an entry to your journal. And every day you get a new email. It's a daily journal. Every day you get a new email sent to you, and all you have to do is respond. It says like, hey, today is July the 18th. What'd you do today? Or how was your day? And you respond, and you start to populate your journal. So that's cool. That's the primary interface. That's why we don't have a lot of UI on this website. And if you want to check it out and sign up, you're free to. It's called journeyinbox.com. There's a lot more branding work we're going to do, like I said. So, judge it. Try not to judge it here. The core functionality works. But you primarily interact with the service via email. So you get prompts, you send them back. And if that was it, that'd be kind of boring. And it's not a super exciting service, but it would be so boring to not be compelling. Because you can do something like this with a lot of tools. You could do this with plain markdown files. You could do this with Obsidian. Obsidian is a tool that is a your personal knowledge base and kind of a personal wiki sort of thing. And it gives you a very easy ability to make a new journal entry without thinking hard, to make daily journals. But what's compelling about this? The compelling part is that every time you get a prompt, we take the service takes a random one of your previous entries and gives it back to you and says, hey, you've been now using the service for 6 months. Here's what you said 2 months ago on this particular date. Here's how you were feeling. Or here's what you wrote. I don't know what you put in your journal. I've been doing journaling for a long time. I put all kinds of different thoughts in there. And it's cool. It's really, it just reminds you that life is very varied. Like I've been journaling. I've used a service similar to Journey Inbox. This is actually a clone of a previous service that I used, and I switched off of that clone and am now fully committed on my own product here. It's solid enough that I'm not worried about it, and then I maintain the uptime, which was that was the problem with my previous service. There would be days where I would not get a prompt. So I have 10 years basically worth of journal entries. And it's really neat to get a reminder of like, here's something you did 7 years ago. And you're like, holy crap, I totally forgot that I even did that whole category of thing. And it's really neat to see that kind of play out. So that's what Journey Inbox is about. So I think it's a pretty compelling service, but we need to make it more compelling. There's not enough here, while the minimal product is there, and you get it, and like you can take advantage of that. But there needs to be more features to make it more interesting for people that want something beyond that. So right now I'm focused on the flow of how do you get you engaged. And so we've been doing work thus far that is like, I need you to get into the app, using it, trying it out regularly, which you're free to try. It's like got a 2-week trial. So if you want to try and sign up right now, go ahead, you can do it. And get you not hooked. I don't. It's not like a drug, but get you see how compelling it is, and hopefully eventually you'd see what I see out of it is that the longer you do it, the more entries you have, the more interesting it is, and the more it's like just adds a certain richness to your life. But we've been working on the sign up flow of showing you why this is going to add value. And one thing that we need to do is part of the state of this is you go through a trial, and if you expire your trial, then we stop sending you emails. The service stops sending you emails, which because you're not paying for it. Not a very expensive service. It's like $5 a month, which is, it's the price of a coffee once a month. So depends on where you are in the world, but in the US at least, that shouldn't be too much to balk at. But we need to give people a chance to say, do I want to do this or do I not want to do this? And that is where where this particular issue is. We want to ask for the sale. It's like the term, if like in kind of marketing speak, if you never ask somebody to commit, they'll just let it fizzle. And so they'll got their couple of weeks of emails, and maybe their inbox was auto filtering it somewhere, they weren't paying attention, and they never have the chance to actually think about this. So I want to incorporate, like shortly, like I say here, shortly before the trial ends, I want to send them an extra reminder. And we got to figure out how to do that, how to make sure we don't send them multiple messages and all of that. So one way to do this that would be quite cheap is to say, if account is in this trialing period and it's past a certain age, it's like the trial window is like 14 days, I think. We could say at day 12, we're going to email you this reminder, and you get a chance to then sign up and complete the flow. The problem, if we just triggered it, is that we don't know. So much of the web is stateless, and so much of what we do is stateless. We don't know if we already sent you something or not. And that's a real challenge with this. We want to know definitively, have we sent you an email saying, did you want to sign up? Because the last thing we want, the really fast way to get marked as spam, is to blindly send that, multiple times. Like if it was 12 days out and we do it try and send these reminder emails daily, and we send it on the 12th day and the 13th day, that's not what I want to happen. I want to send you one unique email as a trialing user, and then go from there. So there's a question of how do we do this? So one thing that crossed my mind is we could reach for a more industrial solution. What I mean by that is we could reach for a third-party package, potentially. I bet if I search for marketing, we'd find some stuff that might be useful. No, that's too generic. What if we search for email? There's probably something in here that says like, hey, if you want to send tracked emails, you could do that with this product or this third-party package. I thought I'd find something more obvious, but maybe I'm not seeing exactly what I expected. Let's check out the email grid, see what's on the grid. So we're already using AnyMail. These are specific mailers for certain services. Mail queuing and management. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. There's a newsletter. Okay. So maybe it's not as prevalent as I thought it would be, but essentially what I was hoping to find was like an obvious third-party package where we're going to handle like drip campaigns. Never heard of a drip campaign? I'm sure you've experienced them. Let's see. An old project. Here's a new version. Let's look at this for a second, see what this describes it. A drip campaign is like your classic mailing list campaign of we're going to send you a sequence of emails at spaced intervals and trying to convince you to buy something. I have a drip campaign. So if you go to my website, This is mattlehman.com. I have a mailing list. So if you, let's click one of these videos. Well, I guess it's, here it is. So I have a way that you can sign up for my newsletter. I send out a monthly newsletter. It's reminding people of, hey, here are videos that I've done. Here's what I've done with my local community, and so on. And I've even got this pop-up that comes up after 30 seconds. So if you're reading an article, I give you a chance to join a newsletter. And I only send out stuff like monthly. It's not really a high volume thing. I used to use it more with every time I wrote an article. I'd also write an email, but that got very tiresome. But part of doing that is I had a drip campaign that went along with it of, here's a set of emails from a blog series that I wrote on different like Python articles. Because the part of what I say about my newsletter is like, hey, here's a good way to learn Python. This is what I talk about a lot. So it would send you like, here's how iterators work. Here's what you can find in the standard library. Here's how the package ecosystem works. So it's a way to learn. But a drip campaign needs to know if, have I sent you that first email or not? Have I sent you the second email in that sequence? So that is what this idea is. Yeah, that's a good call, John. I will check any mail to see if there's any features in here. So what I'm getting with all of this description here is that there's a state element. I don't know if you caught it, but there's the have we sent it or not is a thing that we need to track, and that is what is not obvious. And we could reach for a tool that has features around this, or we could go for something lower tech. And I think I want to reach for, in the spirit of what we started this whole stream on about dependencies and management, I want to go for something lower tech. But I like John's comment of, let's check Django AnyMail first and see if it offers stuff that we may not be thinking about. So AnyMail, as we've discussed in previous streams, is a tool for hooking up Django's email interface to a variety of email service providers, ESP. That's what that stands for. Actually, it's right here in the description. So you could have been reading ahead and seen that. An email service provider is anything like in this list that's here. And their job is to be a trusted source on the internet to actually send out email. They have a terribly hard job, and they have to worry about spam. Spammers are out there like crazy trying to take advantage of these service. So sort of a whack-a-mole of we want to be able to send out emails from legit companies that need to send email, but we also have to fight spammers who are, Nigerian princes that try and send you $1 million or something like that if you just send them a check for $50 or something, and that kind of stuff. So that's what this is known for. But there are probably extra features that might be in here. And I think that's what John's getting at, is like, maybe we can do the email tracking stuff from a feature in AnyMail. I don't know, and I don't see anything obvious that jumps out to me. Let's see, sending email. Is there like tracking email status? So we've got the Django email support. There are tracking events that come back from this stuff. But I don't know that there's any like storage aspect of that. So let's go check out Django AnyMail's models and see if there's anything obvious that we can find in here. The fact that they have no models is telling. No obvious models anyway. So they have a bunch of backends. We're using SendGrid, so let's take a quick peek at the SendGrid backend in case there's anything hiding in here. I don't think there will be. So it's mostly about like, how do you send and receive email, and then it hides the details of the different APIs. Because the way a lot of these ESPs work is like, not like you're sending, the protocol for sending email is a protocol called SMTP, and it's the, I I think it's the Simple Mail Transport Protocol. Yeah, I got it. Cool. So when you work with an ESP, most likely you're not using SMTP. What you're instead doing is you're saying, here's the email I want to send. I'm going to call an API at their website and give them that data, and then they will turn around and turn it into the proper email shape following the SMTP protocol. Well, following the Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. I was about to be redundant with, say, P protocol, and do all of that work for you. So what Django AnyMail does is it's not dealing with SMTP. It is dealing with the differences between Mailgun and SendGrid. They have different APIs that look in different shape. They're probably both JSON APIs, but they expect their payloads to be in a different structure. There's not a standard there. And so AnyMail is hiding that away from you, so you can pick out whichever vendor you want, and then when it comes time to actually send your email, you use the built-in Django Mail tools to send your content in a consistent way, and you don't have to worry about the details of how it's actually going out. That's all up to you, picking a backend and then working with your email vendor. So that's mostly what AnyMail does. So I think based on what I'm seeing here, I'll keep poking around just for a minute, make sure that I'm not missing anything. And I have to focus specifically on SendGrid because this is my choice to use SendGrid. Yeah, I don't think there's anything that we can get out of this. So I appreciate the nudge, John. It's good to consider. All right, so if we can't rely on AnyMail to have memory about what we have sent or not sent, that means we have to find a place for this. So we have options. We could create our own model for tracking specific marketing emails and really get into the modeling concepts, or we could be I would say realistic in this case of how many marketing kind of emails am I going to send out. And I guess actually I should be really clear. This is important. There's a semantic distinction that is, at least in the US, I can't speak for internationally. The US has laws about email, about what you can send versus not send. And it falls into, broadly, two buckets. There's a bucket which is considered your marketing emails of here's your Black Friday holiday sale thing. Like, that's a classic marketing email. It's not directed for any purpose. It's just meant to be as a mass mailing. You happen to be somebody that they have the email address for, and so they send that out. That's one scenario. The other category is what's considered transactional emails, and that is like, you went to a vendor and you bought a book, and you get a receipt because you bought that book from that vendor. That is a transactional email because you transacted with that service, and so there's just an acknowledgement of, hey, here's your receipt on your behalf. And the laws around the two things are different. You can imagine that there's a lot more scrutiny around the marketing emails because that can be into the realm of spam, where the transactional nature is like, you have had some interaction which has caused this email to happen, and so there's less scrutiny around that because it's been a direct interaction. So when we are asking a user to sign up, I don't view that as a marketing email. I view that as the completion of the life cycle of a trial. So you signed up. 2 weeks later, we say, do you want to keep going with your sign up? And so it feels like it's extended in time, but it's still a transaction in my mind. So just trying to be really crisp on terminology. We're thinking about transactional emails. And so we could model this ourselves, and we could find some place where in here we make an emails app and we have transactional emails and we do that. Or we pause and we say, what are we trying to solve? I'm trying to do one particular transactional email to close a deal. Do I see in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, am I going to write any more transactional emails? This service is meant to be like very much, we're going to send you emails every day. You'll know about the service. You're using it because that's how you interact, but we don't need to send you extra stuff. You're not buying something from this. You just have a kind of ongoing subscription. So I don't see the value in trying to make a whole system around having transactional emails. And if that's true, the question becomes, where should we put this state? Should we make a model? And I think the answer is no. Instead, what I want to do is put some kind of something on some existing model state that we have. So there might still be a model that comes out of this, but I do see some longer term value for it. Let's talk about it. So we have a couple of different models that already exist. One is the user model. This is the model that exists in Django to enable the authentication system to work. It's the interface that is expected by Django's auth system, and you kind of have to have this if you want to represent a person in your system. And I have come to a conclusion where I want to use the user only for the purposes of authentication. I've worked on apps where a bunch of data was hung on the user model as extensions to that. And the problem is the user model gets queried all the time, and Django's default way is to do a select star, so you end up querying a bunch of data that you don't really need, and you get a bloated table that you don't really have. There is other data that we only need part of the time, and the account is a good example of that, where this is a model that is you can see it's a one-for-one field that is connected to the user, and it has information about, are you an active user? Are you in the trialing state? What's your deal? What's your story? And then we also keep, actually we don't. I thought we might have a record of the Stripe customer ID. We might need to come back and put that in later. So fundamentally, this is about your account. Now, you could argue, maybe successfully, if I'm gonna pause and think about this before I commit, that the account is a place for multiple pieces of information. It doesn't have to be just about what is your financial status with Journey Inbox, and are you active or expired or whatever. It could be about other pieces of data. The other common model that is often paired, at least in the Django universe, with the user is another one-to-one model, and it is conventionally called the profile model. And the profile model is like data that you don't need all the time, but it's where you can store some information. And if I think about the scenario that we're trying to solve of have we sent you a transactional email or not, this would be a really great place to store that kind of information in my mind. So I'm having a debate in my head right now of, let's see, what would I call this? We'd either have, well, forgetting where we put it, whether it goes on account or on the profile, but the field would be something like, what should we call it? What do I want to call this thing? I'm having a brain fart. It's because it's not the sign up email. It's like activate email. Yeah, that's probably because the state here is you start trialing and you go. Yeah, okay, that's what I want to call it. You start in the trialing state when you create an account, and the language that we use when you sign up is activate your account or something like that. So the email we want to send is a call to action that is a normal set of language. It's consistent with what you'd find on the website. So I'd want to call it like the activate email. So we would have a field like activate email. What? Is there an activate date? What was telling me activate date? Why was it suggesting that? Huh? What is that? What in the heck was trying to say this? Like, that's weird because activate date. I don't remember. Did I use that somewhere? Why does my language server protocol, is it offering me that suggestion? It already knows it. Okay, hold on. Some weirdness here. Oh. I gotta be careful with this because I think there's something coming from Django extensions. Now I remember. All right, it's coming back to me. We've got the activator model. All right, let's go to this definition. So, cool part. This is I definitely recommend if you haven't set this up. And this might be really easy in VS Code or something like that. But if you have, whatever your editor is, you want to hook it up to a language server support, and that allows you to go directly to the definition of some code, and that includes not only your code but third-party code. And I wrote about this in my book, which is called Understand Django. One of the chapters is about how do you learn more, or how do you do debugging. And one of the things that you have to become comfortable with is at some point you need to recognize that code is just, it's also written by other human beings, and it's not scary, it's not magical. So you should be comfortable like jumping into somebody else's code. And yeah, you can't change it, more like a read only and understanding it, but you can see it, and it's useful in that regard. So we've got this activator model that we used. What I don't know, I don't remember anyway, is how activate date was used. Zephyr, look, I see your question there. Do you have a buffer as a CMP source? I don't actually know what that means, Zephyr. So maybe you can, maybe you can illuminate me there. But yeah, so anyway, you want to be able to use your language server protocol tools, whatever they are, for your editor, and know how to go to definition or go to references very quickly. So here, like I'm using NeoVim, and I've got this configured so that I can hit my my leader key, which is like essentially the shortcut key in NeoVim. And that should bring up if I just hit it slowly, normally you don't see this, it only comes after a few milliseconds, but I'm normally quicker than that. So I can hit space to bring all this up, and for whatever reason, G is not listed there. Oh, that's weird. Maybe I hid that one. But I can hit then G, and so here, then I get like all the things that I can do. So I can go directly to the definition from that way. So in a couple keystrokes, in my case it's 3 space GD. I can go right to the definition. And then the other part, I don't know if any of you are using NeoVim, but it is useful to know the stack. There's like a stack that helps you jump from point to point. So the way I'm able to go quickly from one spot to the other is to take advantage of that stack. So that if I hit Control O, I return to where I came from. There's also another way. There's a different stack. There's like multiple, and I guess I'm not explaining this very well. I'm sorry. A stack is just like places where NeoVim knows you have been, and you can, every time you go jump to a new place, like if I hit GG, I jump to the top of the file. So that added a new place that NeoVim now knows about to my stack. And if I hit Control O, I return, like I kind of pop that off the stack and return to where I was. But that's not totally true because it's bi-directional. It remembers all of your like latest actions and actually keeps a whole tree of history. Yeah, jump list is sort of I think the official name for it, Zephyr. You're right. So I can hit Control I and return. So like I can kind of go back to places that I've been just by hitting Control O and Control I multiple times. This is super powerful and very useful to know. There is another stack that I forget to use most of the time, and it's recommended for particularly for LSP usage, but I just forget about it. So if I go to the definition here, if I do GD, oh, that's why it didn't work. Just have to do G. There it is. G brings up the stuff. This is like go to is the way to think about it, and then D is the way to jump to those things. And then if I do Control T, hold on. Yeah, I might be No, it's Control T. So it's like it's a more specific stack, and I'm trying to remember. There's a way to bring this up. It's Control plus T. No, help Control dash T. So there's a tag stack and there's a jump list. And for whatever reason, the tag stack is more specific to things related to LSP stuff. Anyway, I'm getting a little bit down in the weeds into NeoVim, but it is a great editor if you really want to like up level. I think NeoVim is an awesome tool to become proficient at for doing really amazing code navigation. All right, see some comments in here. So I've not been reading them. Zephyr, about marks. For whatever reason, marks is another tool that's available from NeoVim. I have never gotten into marks. Marks is a way to like kind of, well, it is what it sounds like. It's like set a bookmark essentially on a certain line in a file. And I can't even remember, is it M? If I say M A, is that like how to do the mark? And then like to come back, you can do quote A. I think that's it. Yeah, Harpoon's a good tool too, Zephyr. I agree. Like that's from the Primogen, right? So there are certainly a lot of ways to navigate, but for me, I found a combination of I use Telescope rather than a Harpoon. So Telescope is what you see here. It brings up the fuzzy finder, and I can type in whatever I want and jump straight to it. It's got a preview thing, and then from there I can use a combination of jumping to specific files, which is all of every buffer that I've loaded up here, and I've got fuzzy finding on that, so I can say index and jump to that, or I can use like I described, Control O and Control T. So that's how I navigate pretty quickly. If you ever wonder like how is he jumping around so fast? All right, so let's look at this briefly. So let's take a look at the activator model. We pulled this from Django extensions, and it's got this activate date thing that I totally forgot about. But that's not on account, so maybe it doesn't matter. But I kind of want to be consistent in terminology. So this is Django extensions, And this is the, I think it's in the admin extensions, or is that wrong? Model extensions. Okay. Does it give a description of what each of these things mean? Activate. Nope, there's the, okay. They don't tell us how they actually use it. That's unfortunate. Let's go take a look. Now, because this is more intellectual curiosity than anything else at this point. So Django extensions, models, because this would be a model. What? No, that's not right. Oh. Come on. Activate date. We have, okay, so they put it in a DB directory for reasons unknown to me. Show me the Python code. Huh. Ah. Oh, okay, okay. So this is more like a, their definition of activate is when did you sign up. So it's like date joined. If you actually look at the user model, this one already exists. But this is the reason that this is a generic model that's not meant to be just used for users. It's used to be for anything that you want to have active and deactivate kind of time periods for. So the first time you create this, it creates it for now. But that's actually redundant with the user model. So if we actually, so let's go back to the user model and check that out. And you'll see on here, we have this line here, date joined. So those are going to be very close with each other, probably off by, perhaps a few hundred million, some amount of milliseconds, because they are literally multiple calls to daytime time zone. They don't know about each other, but they'll be comparable. So we have two of those fields here. So we don't actually have an activate date on the account, which I was maybe worried about. And I don't even think I'd want to call it activate date. So I was just surprised to see activate of any kind show up here. What I'm really looking for, what would I want this to be? Let's say we put it on the account just for the sake of it, to keep things simple. And frankly, I'm leaning this way. I don't know why I'd want to. The argument for separating them is to keep the account focused on the daily email prompt. And that feels something that's like that is a classic profile kind of setting. Like, what is your time zone? But our app is so small, I might just say, forget it. Let's just put it on the account model and not worry about the extra complexity of having two different things. So I am leaning towards forget about profile. We already have a tool that exists that's going to create an account for every user, and let's just use it. Oh, Zephyr, that's really interesting to me. An LSP. Ooh. All right. We might need to check that out later. Because you say it's using black or iSort, or presumably for formatting. So does it hook into the LSP's like built-in format command? Because I think there's Vim. Oh, come on. I think Lua, Vim. I don't remember how to do it. So Rough implemented its own format. Okay. Are you talking about style format? Because I know that it has some slight deviations from black, but it's like so close. It's basically nearly identical. I guess I'm thinking of. I think I have a tool still to manage my formatting. Kind of all over the place tonight, y'all, but hopefully that's okay. I tend to view these sessions as like, yeah, it's important to make some progress, but it's also important to have some fun along the way. Why I do them? Excuse me. Okay, so it goes to the LSP interface. Yeah, so here's my Vim configuration universe, and I have some of my plugins here. And one of them is this. I'm using Conform here, which is already using rough. So I'm actually not sure what I'd get out of switching to the rough LSP versus my current setup. Because my current setup is using Pyrite for static type indentation, and then the Conform plugin for actually doing formatting on save. But maybe if there's a future where rough gets better, like you can see here, Pyrite cannot figure out Django. It just doesn't understand Django. Try as it might, Django is just too dynamic for Pyrite, and so it gives me like crap messages. Like, this is just wrong. Like, this is totally valid code, but it thinks it's not valid, and that's annoying. So I wish that this would go away, because it, if you are a casual watcher of my stream and you look at my code, like, who's this clown? He's got a bunch of stuff that's not set or not working right, and he doesn't know what he's doing. But in this case, I'm smarter than Pyrite here, and that makes me sad. So I have to learn to ignore, or learn to differentiate between what is a real error and what was one that was just being reported by Pyrite. I should read their docs. Thanks for the polite RTFM. All right, let's do it. Rough LSP. I don't think I'm going to switch this night, but let's take a couple minutes to see what it's got, what it says. Rough ships with a built-in language server. Cool. Same feature set as Rough LSP. Okay, so you can also get it through Rough server. Oh, is this not the right thing? Really? Because it's definitely Astral. That's the group that makes Rough. Is it a different project? All right, let's check it out. Let's keep going. Two different things. So they've built in Rough server. Cool. A direct replacement for Rough LSP. Okay. So just by using Rough, oh, I see. So the fact that we install Rough already. Oh, I see where they're going. That's actually pretty clever. And it takes some configuration, though. The challenge is, like, here we go. I've got Mason. And you can see, wow, I'm way behind on Rough. Let's update these things. I was on like Rough 0.1 something. This might have been a mistake to update this right now. So the challenge is, like, there's an LSP config aspect to my NeoVim stuff, and I think it's configured to use Pyrite as the default Python LSP. So maybe there is, once this gets installed, I'm sorry, I should not have probably installed this. Once this gets updated, we can look at the LSP that I have configured and see where it's coming from. There's like a project Mason LSP, something like that. Yeah, I think I use this, which is like shorthand configuration. What is going on? Like, do I have terrible download again? I swear, I don't swear. I definitely checked before I started the stream and had decent internet. It wasn't amazing, but it was okay. Where's my download speed? Awful. Less than a megabyte? Yikes, y'all. Yikes. But then it's going to say my upload speed's like, I mean, y'all can see me well enough, I guess. Sad. I really one day need to figure out. I'm in the basement of my house. My router is on the second floor, and I don't have Ethernet cable. Problem of how do I get internet down here and not pay for like a second cable box in my basement? Because that would be a bunch more extra money, which I don't want to pay for. So I go through Ethernet over power right now. As you can see, pretty inconsistent. Well, now it's saying 0 on the upload. That's not true. I think it's not true. I'm still here, right? Yep. Okay. I'm vacationing. No, I'm just cheap. I don't know. My Comcast package, in theory. So when I am upstairs near my router, I get about, on a good day, like 200 down, 50 up, which is reasonable. It's not amazing, but yeah, I need to invest in some Switch stuff. Problem is like, it's a bunch of research. Like, I'd started down that path, and like, you can really mess it up and buy the wrong equipment. Like, do I really want to do this? I should, though. It's because if I'm going to continue to be down here, which I am, in fact, I don't know if you've noticed, I got to fix some coloration, so my hands are looking a little green today. And the reason is because I can go out wider because I've got a new green screen. So I can move. I don't have little corners showing up anymore. I'm looking at my video over here. I'm pretty happy with that. So I do continue to use the money. If you want to support me, that's what it's going towards, is trying to bit by bit build up the stream quality to something better. Okay, so let's take a look at Mason. Let's see what kind of configurations they have. So down here, what is this? That's what I'm using. Is this the project? I'm in the wrong project. Okay, we updated all that stuff. Let's do split on my editor, my vimrc. Go back in here to the plugins. Check out the LSP configuration. There's Mason. There's Mason LSP. Compatibility layer. All right, that's what I thought. And then somewhere down here, I say like which LSPs I want to use for different languages, I think. So just by declaring these servers, I say I want to use Clang D. For C development, I want to use Go Please for Go. I've got Pyrite for Python. So I'm surprised. Where is Pyrite? Did they get rid of it? Am I on the right project? William Bowman. Mason LSP. Huh. I am perplexed. This is definitely Mason LSP. Unless, perhaps this has been folded into like upstream. Nope, mappings. Wow. Yeah. See, there's no rough. So what's going on? Why am I not getting this? I'm missing something. So these are coming from, is it NVim LSP config? Okay. I guess I don't remember what the difference is between these things. Got Mason LSP config. Did they move it? Am I just behind? It could be. It could be behind. I think I'm behind. I haven't pulled. All right, so here's the other challenges here. I've got MB layman dot files, and I don't know that I've updated this, so it could be that I'm just like staring at old configuration. So plugins, ls. No. I know you don't mean any offense. So I love NeoVim. I love that it is moving. I love that it is kept up to date. I tell my kids, hate's too strong a word. I strongly dislike the rate of change on the plugin ecosystem. And I feel like I'm not that far behind. You kind of ribbed me there, Zephyr, but I'm using, what is this, Lazy? So I was using plug, and like I'm trying. There's only so much I can do. Like I revisit this maybe once every 6 to 12 months and find out like, crap, I gotta go find a replacement plugin again. Never ending battle. I feel like if I stopped being a developer for 2 or 3 years, I'd come back and be a whole different ecosystem. Oh, okay. LazyVim distro. I've never explored that before. Maybe I'm getting to a point where that would be good enough, because, and I turned into that with Linux. There was a time where with Linux I was like, let me customize stuff. I want to customize it all. I didn't get down to Gentoo or that kind of level, but I was doing a lot. And then I embraced like the default settings on things. You notice this particular device, like, and it's probably because I never show the background here, but if I show this background, this is the default background for whichever, I don't even know which version of Mac we're on here. Sonoma. So I don't change it because I don't want to. Oh, thanks for the reminder, John. Yeah, it's forget what I have and have not done. So at some point we'll come back to this. We'll fix it up, either keep Pyrite or switch to Rough. It'd be nice to get rid of yet another tool in my chain if I'm already using Rough for formatting and they're doing a good job. I am curious though. It feels to me, without knowing, that Pyrite has a massive head start in terms of typing, and I don't know if that's naive or what, but is the typing information going to be better than what's coming out of Pyrite? Oh, you still need Pyrite. Okay. So what is Rough? Okay. If that's the case, how do Pyrite and Rough play along? Is it the Rough is supplying the LSP format response for their server? Oh, okay. Okay. I gotcha. So if that's true, then I don't really get a lot of value out of that, because I already have Conform, which is hooking up to Rough's formatting tools. So yes, in theory, I could make my Python setup simpler, but because I have Conform for other formatters, there was at least one other in that list. I think it was a Lua one. I need to keep Conform, so I might as well continue to use Rough. All right, interesting side discussion. Thanks for that. Let's see where we can go from here. So we have the desire to send an activation email. So I think that's what I'd want to call it. And there's a couple ways you can think about this. So let's just put it on account. There's no need to have a separate profile. Eventually, when we get to a time zone, we can put it on account as well. My particular app, if you're building a business to business kind of app, then you might want to think of account as being like separate from a person, whereas an account could have an admin or a bunch of users, or a group of people associated with them. So that's probably the right way to think about an account in a more complicated or a more complex setup. Here, I know for certain that there's no universe in which I'm going to offer like a family plan for Journey Inbox. It's always going to be, because the way it works is like sends to one specific person and sends to their email account. And it's never going to make sense to fan it out to multiple people. I say never. In all likelihood, like I can't never imagine myself doing that. It's more accurate. So I'm going to assume that for our purposes, account can also be the personalized settings that are associated with a particular user. And if that's true, then we can put on extra attributes here. Looking at that last comment, Zephyr. Active monitoring of your code base. Push notification monitoring with the roster. Huh. That's interesting. A lot of cool stuff going on with that team. So I want to separate things in terms of, there is this stuff that's related to, can you continue to use the service, which is the status field. But then there are also, like, we'll call them, and I'll just put a comment here, profile, call them profile attributes. And so let's talk about what that first one would be with this email thing. We would have an activate email. And one way to do this is we could say models, Boolean field, and we could default it to false and go from there. I don't want to do that. And I think I heard this actually coming back to the changelog. So the changelog, some of the advice, no, let me go back to it again. So the changelog, no, just changelog.com. Yeah. So this site's pretty fast. I don't know if you saw how fast, even with like really crappy internet right now, that was still pretty quick. They pride themselves on building their own website. This is an Elixir app, which has a lot of very fancy caching in front of it, and like this is their whole business. So how they do this, and you can. What's cool about it is you can see it's open source and stuff. So these guys, they're not just like a couple of talking heads. They're like trying to make their product along the way. Yeah, John, you're right. That's exactly what I'm getting towards. And one of the things that Jared Santo, has learned from other developers and stuff is when you have a kind of a Boolean state and it corresponds with an event in time, one of the things you can do instead of using a Boolean is use a date field. So you could make it like this with it's a Boolean field where it defaults to false. What the heck is going on? Why is it false not showing up? Whatever. You could default that way, or you could do instead and make it a date. So activate email date, where it's a models date, probably a date time field actually, date time field, and it would be it would use null equal true. And so the existence of the field, like an actual date time, is truth, and that field being null is Boolean. And the nice part about that is it kind of packs in a little bit of extra information. It's like, not only do you know it happened, but then you can then look at the value and see when it happened. When did we send that email? So these are the two different ways that we can handle Boolean state, or these are two, not the only two. I'm sure there's probably more. There are other ways that we could do this, but these are two different probable ways to handle the state related here. So I think what I want to do is go, if you couldn't tell already, I'm going to go with the version that uses a date field and has it be null by default. So that when we do send these out, we would check. This is the code in my head is like, we're going to hook up a daily job, just like we did with our prompt. Daily job will look for anybody who's trialing, and anybody whose trial is about to expire within 48 hours. It's arbitrary, but that's the time and period I'm going to pick. And then the other condition that it would check is that vision a reality? If you have any questions about that, let me know, but hopefully it's pretty straightforward in what we're trying to accomplish. And then I guess we can add some documentation here. So we can use help text, I think, right? Yeah, Zephyr, I'll get to that in just a moment. Good question. I want to look at, all right, bye Jared. Jared's pretty cool. Django project. Go to the documentation. We want to look up the date time field. It's going to be in the model reference somewhere. Oh my word, download speed's just crushing my soul. Yikes. Oh, really? Okay, it wasn't me. It was actually Django project is down. Seems to be down. Django. I really should have like local. I am still up, right? All right, let's check a different website. Okay, Google's still fine. Hello. Yeah, all right. There it goes. I wonder what they were doing. Maybe they're doing a deploy. Documentation. Oh, it's killing me. I can't wait that long. So let's go over here. I do have a clone of Django locally. I mean, actually, I was already in it. Wow. So we can go to, let's look for date time field. And that's going to be showing up. Actually, let's look for class date time field. I can type. So that'll get us right to the actual field definition. Here we are. It's going to inherit from a date field. I'm looking for help text. I think it's called help text. Am I crazy? So that's date field. Let's go to the definition of that. It's a date time check mixin. It's got to inherit some field. Field. Here we go. Field. Ah, phooey. Help. There it is. Help text. Okay. Have I checked that I'm not getting any IP collisions? What do you mean, John? Like IP collisions with on my network? I before I started, I did like restart my whole router. Like last time it was just a freaking mess. And I restarted my whole router before I even began this evening. And then I did a speed test right before I got on, and it gave me like glowing numbers, or glowing relative to where I am. It was like 40 down and 15 up, which is plenty. And then once we got into the actual stream, sort of like just crap in the bed. I don't know. Can't explain it. So anyway, we've got what I was looking for, which is help text. And Pyrite is totally failing to help us here, which is sad. We'll say, let's see, date when activation email is sent to user. So that'll help me enough to understand this. All right, I gotta apparently because of my updates, my saving stuff isn't happy, so let's quit out of here, restart NeoVim, go back to the account model section, and return here. Okay, or would you recognize help text now? Still no help. Lame. Lame. Do they both have a meta? I wonder if there's a bug here. What is it complaining about? Hold on. No, didn't complain that time. Okay. So abstract user. Well, that's super annoying. Why can't I go where I want to go? I think I might just made my life harder with that update. And I did it midstream. Out for now. And just assume that those metas are okay. They haven't bit us so far as I... Alright. I'm just going to assume that some of that can be heard. Sorry, y'all. So we have this section called job scheduling from Django extensions. And it gives us this ability to run different kinds of jobs on different cadences. And the way I hook this up is that on Heroku has a built-in cron tool. It's not like immediately accessible, but it's a very easy thing to add to your Heroku apps. And the idea is you give a cron schedule for when you want something to run, and it will run whatever arbitrary command you want. So here, if I run Django extensions right here, and some of them are about jobs. There's this run job command or run jobs. We can do run jobs. We look at the help for that. And you can see it says when. It's got these different things for when. So what I do is on the Heroku side, I set up a cron job and I set it to run daily at some time of day. And then I set that for daily. And what that signals to Django is it says, can I find any job classes that are marked as daily and let me run those? And we do have one of those. Here's an example. The easiest way to do this is to inherit from daily job. And if we look at the definition, hey, definition is working now. I don't know why. All you can see that it's taken from this base job class and it's setting the when class attribute to that daily. So we're running this management command. It's hooked up to cron and it's looking for daily jobs. And so we're going to run a daily job that will send out these trial emails. I appreciate the suggestion, John. I'll see if I can. I wonder if there's a way that I can. The problem with this situation is that I think this is on. The way this is hooked up is I have Ethernet, and it's going to the Ethernet cable from my Mac M1 right here. Is running down over there to a power adapter that's like literally 4 feet away from me, 5 feet. And it's jacked into the wall. And then there's a matching plug adapter from my outlet in my office where the router is, my home office for my regular day job. And that thing is connected right into the back of the router. So it's like an Ethernet cable. So there's a direct wired connection there, and I'm not sure. There's probably a DHCP aspect handling. Well, no, I guess it's wired, so I don't know what it's doing for IP address. Yeah, but I'll check it out, see what I can find out from my router. I hate getting in the router. It's always like it's a Comcast router, and it's not great. So I'll see if I can find a way to reserve an IP so that I don't get any conflicts in the future. But I have a feeling that really what's happening is the power situation in my house has always been a little, like, I'm really a little questionable about some of the electrical wiring that was done. Even though my house was built new, We've had some weird like flickering issues over time. So I suspect that it's just not a great signal already. It's like not the best mechanism to transfer data to begin with. And then begins on top of that is a noisy signal. That's what I suspect. So some days it works well, some days it doesn't. I don't know how to improve that. So what I really need to do is invest in different ways to get internet down here. Okay, getting back to jobs, to Zephyr's question. So the job is like the simplest thing in the world to set up. It's you create a job class, you make it derived from the daily thing. You've already got your cron schedule set up somewhere, so that's on you for however you deploy. If you're on Heroku, you can use the cron stuff. I'm sure that other cloud hosting vendors have their own solution for how you can do cron-like things. And then you give it the code you want to run. So here is our code for expiring jobs. We look for certain accounts. We tell it to update the status. And then we say, this is how many we expired. So pretty straightforward. And the nice part about this is it's actually pretty easy to test this too. The test for this is you create a job instance and you execute a method, and you can just test against the method. You don't have to simulate a cron setup. None of that is there. It's nice and easy. So we're going to make another job, and I think the key is it has to be in this particular jobs package. That's how it finds this. So you can say, if we can do run jobs -- list, and it will show what jobs it has. So a couple of them come from Django extensions themselves. Django by default, if you use its cache functionality, it will use a database-backed cache. That's how our sessions work. So it will clean those out on a daily level, which is one of the pitfalls of working with Django sessions from the default. Is it creates a session object, and that table can fill up, and you don't even know it. I don't actually know what this daily cleanup one is. I assume it's something safe. I've never actually inspected that. But you can see the two things that we have. So there's the expire trials, which is you have gone through your 2 weeks, and I give you a couple extra days just to be super generous. And so that's when accounts get expired. And then there's this is the send mail is like the primary thing that the app does. It's like every day sending the prompt emails out for all the accounts. So that's how that one works. So we're going to add a new one, a third one, which will be send, what we call it, send activation mail. Feels like the right name. What did I call that? Send email. All right, I'm being inconsistent throughout. So it is an email, and my job is called send mail. Is it mail or email? I don't know. Doesn't matter. So send activation mail. Be consistent with the other one. All right, so we're over here. Let's bring up the expire jobs just so we can stare at a similar example. And we want to have from Django extensions .management .jobs import the job. John, I think that's the ultimate right answer. So here's the hilarious part. My next door neighbor works for Comcast, and he does like business. He like sets up office buildings with like Comcast wire. So I don't even have to go hire. I'm gonna be like, Pat, I'll pay you. Come on over to my house. I'll get, how do you want to be paid? You want some beer? Do you want some money? I'm willing to do whatever. Please be a good neighbor. I'm happy to pay you. I'm not like do something for free, because this is your work. This is your life. I get it. Can you come fix my broken internet in my home? That's what I really need to do. And have him figure out, because the ironic part is like my box for all my cable wiring is just like it's 20 feet that way. So it comes into the house in the basement, goes all the way upstairs, and then I go back downstairs through it's just a stupid mess. All right, so we're gonna make our daily job here, and we want it to be, we want to help text say send activation email to encourage user to sign up or to activate. Yeah, that's what we want. We need an execute method on that. Oh, okay, don't need to come from super. I don't think the super does anything. I think it's just a pass. And so we've got our daily job. All right, so that's the starting point. Cool. I don't even think any of the rest of this is going to help. Like this really all there is to it in terms of setup. So we've got our activate email. Well, actually, okay, I lied. So that's going through, it's just doing a filter, not using the manager. Yeah, let's keep it up. It's got some useful stuff in there. The other thing we want is bring up the test jobs for the accounts module. So we've already got some tests here for the class. You can see how the setup works. It's like literally as straightforward as you get. You create a job, you call execute, you check that it did the stuff. That's what you care about. So we are, what do we need to assert on? We need to assert on, we need to make sure we don't send emails to people who have already received the emails. We need to assert that it only sends it for people in trialing state. Like the last thing we need is somebody who's in an active state. Like let's say you signed up and you're like, man, this service is great. And you're on like day 5 and you activate, and then you get to day 12 and it's asking you to activate. We don't want that. So the intersection is you're definitely in the trialing state and you're about to expire. Those are the two key things that we have to check for in terms of who. And then the state that we want to like check after the fact is did we actually call the mail API, which is very, very easy in our testing setup because we're using an in-memory mailbox. And so we check the in-memory mailbox. The way this works is you call the send mail API and it takes whatever message it was going to build and it just puts it in it literally puts it in a list. And then you can just, and it clears the list between tests. So you can inspect, did the list have something in it? That's how you check it. And then we also want to check, did the activation date get sent? Because that was I guess that's the third condition. So it's not only are you trialing, but are you trialing? Are you past X number of days, before the trial expires? And is your activation email date null? Those are the three states to look up for in our filter. And then did send the email, and did we set the date if you were in previously had something be done? Okay, so and then we have a job to actually create the emails. So that's what else is coming out. So let's come over to the bottom here. Actually, maybe we can steal some of this to start. First thing we're gonna have to do is rename. We'll say we can do a rename on this whole thing. Let's try it. Let's do this. Let's do expire. This is going to cause some errors for a moment, but then I'll fix it very quickly. So we're going to rename the whole thing to expire trials job. It's going to change it in the whole file. And then we'll say job as, which should fix this. Baloney. No, 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 no. Wrong. There's definitely a job in there. Liars. No, I'm wrong. Oh, I changed it over here too. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. No. Okay. So it was telling the truth because it did like a rename in every file. Okay, hold on. Let me make sure I didn't have a bigger blast radius than I expected. Trials job should just be the one file. Okay, that's what I wanted. Side effect is it changed it in the source file. I didn't think it was going to do that. Okay, so now the test should still work and run the test file. So those 3 tests pass, great. Now we want the second class. Let's first, before we do that, let's take this and do send. What is it doing? Send. My LSP is all screwed up tonight, y'all. Send activation mail. Send activation mail. Oh, okay. It doesn't know about it yet. Restart the LSP. And then we want to change this to be send activation. Will it just be very verbose? Send activation mail job. Okay. So let's create a new class, test, send activation mail, and we want the happy path. All right, let's test the happy path. Like test. Yeah. Yeah, that's the email versus mail thing I talked about earlier. So I named the file mail and the field email. Whatever. You can't, short of like renaming a bunch of stuff, I can't win. So shame on me for getting it wrong to begin with. I'm just going to continue. I'm going to lean into the inconsistency and just embrace it. Test sends activation mail. And so let's put a doc. I like to put doc strings on my tests, even though it should be fairly self-evident, but I want to spell it out because me from a year from now doesn't want to have to think about what was the test doing. I want to be able to read the one sentence and be like, oh, right, that's what it was doing. I forgot about this scenario, which happens more often than you think. So let's see, a trialing user with that is soon to expire gets an activation email. Activation email. That's the objective. Okay. So we're going to have to, this one will have to do some freezing of time to make sure we're not, well, no, that's not true. We can do some relative calculation stuff. That should work fine. You can see we've already got the trial days constant. So trial days is, I think, probably 16. Oh, 14. Okay. Somewhere I include like some grace period. So I want to send the activation email at trial days -2 is my goal. So like day 12 when I want to send it. So we want, let's pretend that the 12-day, or like this person's like 12.5 days. So we'll round up to 13 days. That's the person we want to target. So we want to create and a trialing status. Let's copy a lot of this actually. So, and we're going to need to refresh their account. No, we won't. Yeah, we will, because we'll need to see that it sets the date. So we're not going to check the status on it later. Well, let's adjust from here. So let's call the send activation mail job, which is actually just our job down here. It's aliased. And then we have someone who's trialing. They joined now. No. They joined now minus some number of days ago. So we want to say they joined 13 days ago. So let's make this trial days -1. They're still in a valid trial, but they're about to expire. So that's the right person. We also, I don't need to set the activation mail date to anything in particular because we are setting it to null by default. So the factory, in the absence of any specific condition set, will go to whatever the default is on this, which actually, maybe I didn't set it to, I set null equal true. Is that right? Okay. Sorry. It's been a while since I've worked on some fields. Is null equal true? Is that the right thing? Is it? So we want to say null equal true, blank equal true, because that's for the admin part. Blank equal true. That should be null by default. Okay. So now we have someone who's in the right state. They're primed to receive the activation email. And on the other side of this, we want to say account dot activate email date excuse me, is not null, or is not none. Sorry, wrong language. That should fail because it's still none. We didn't set anything. We've got the basics in place for a test. The other thing we need to do that we haven't done yet is, and we probably won't get to tonight, frankly, it's getting a lot later than I thought, is check that the email was sent. We'll leave that one as a to-do for another time. I like the weekly thing. I like getting back to weekly. There was a time period where I used to be weekly and I wasn't. And it's cool. Like, all right, not another 2 or 3 weeks before we get to do some of this stuff again. So check that the email is sent. But tonight we can get us as far as, let's get the assertion on here. Let's do 2 things. Let's save the email date and let's assume that they're going to send it. And let's also assert, let's make sure that we're not catching somebody who's active or somebody who's already received it or those kind of conditions. We need tests for that. So def test test has activation email date. If a user already has a date, no email is sent. Okay. Now I think we're not going to be able to like assert on that properly because I want to check that the send email method is not called. That's the most important aspect of that. So we might leave these other emails actually these other tests for a later time. The other test we want to do is test active. Yeah, that's actually an important one. Test active active user. Let's call it, I'll be simple with the title. An active user does not receive an activation mail. So I said 3 things earlier, so let's make sure we've got active, we've got activation date. What was the 3rd thing I said? What the heck was that? Balloons? What? Is this my Mac being weird? Oh, okay. Well, that was fun. Not intentional. I guess I can do a party like periodically. We can throw up some balloons. Wow, sorry, I got distracted. So 3 things. I'll put my hand down here to count the 3. There was the status. We've got a test. We will have a test for the status. We will have a test for the activation email date. And I guess, should we test the time range? Like, yeah, probably. Test new trial. So if you're like, because we want to be able to say, what do we want to be able to say? Oh, let's put this in pros. Yeah, birthday. Oh, what is that? What culture is like peace sign? The peace sign? Yeah, peace sign means balloons. Don't get it. Okay, whatever. A new trial user does not receive an activation email. Okay. Funny part is like that balloons thing. I think it has nothing to do with this camera. It has nothing to do with Streamlabs. I think it is like a Mac. It's like built into the Mac, if I remember correctly. I remember seeing, I had a presentation from one of the local meetups I go to, an open source meetup, and the guy who was presenting talked about this feature. There's like, okay, there's some other things we can do. I should know about what these are because they're kind of fun. Mac video gesture animation, hand gestures. How to enable. Okay, what are they? FaceTime calls. Yeah. But tell me what they are. Peace sign, it's balloons. Oh man, I got all sorts of stuff. So I can do this. What? Okay. Wow. That work? This is wild. Wild, y'all. It'd be really sad. Okay. Confetti is double. The balloons is. All right. Lasers. Epic. And fireworks. Well, I will have to. I need like a handy reference. I need to like print this out and put it on there because I would be like and subscribe. Anyway, try it out. It's fun, John. I'm gonna leave that tab up. I'm totally gonna remember this for later, and just like lean like it's totally normal, and not even be completely unfazed. You know. Hey. All right. Sorry. Learn a new gimmick. Okay, so well, we've got these tests. I'm gonna write the code that I think is gonna be correct, and we'll go from there, and we will check that the account has a date. So let's see. Let's do this. So we want to do accounts is equal to account dot object. Okay, this is where we can lean on the other one over here. Date joined is greater than. Oh, okay. Do we need to do a range? Do we need to clip it? Hold on. Older. Because, you know, you think in Unix time starts from 0, right? Dot now minus date time dot time delta. What? Oh, okay. Imported. Okay. time delta days -2. And then we want to put in here cutoff days, close that. And here we want to do less than activation email cutoff. Okay. And close that. Why is this so indented so far? Not right. Okay. So is this right so far? Got the right status. We only go for people that are 12 years or 12 days or older in there. Oh, there's one more condition. The other one we want is the activation date. Activate, what do I call it? What do I call it? Activate email date. Yikes. Really inconsistent. Then we do is null is equal to true. Right. Those are the three conditions. Status, time, and whether you've received it or not. Okay. Cool. And then I guess technically if we want to make this a little bit faster on the join, we could do select related, but I don't care. It's not going to be, there aren't that many people using the service, and this is a background thing, so it's not going to be a big problem. Okay, so now that we have that, what we need to do to finish this test is run this through a loop for account and accounts. And then we want to, this is where we would do, this is where we'll put the email sending. Why did it outdent that? Send email here. And then immediately after that email is sent, then we want to save on the account. So we take account and we set the activate email date, and we'll set it to, oh well, do we need to, does it help? I could calculate time zone once at the top and it'd be close enough. I'll just call it again. It's not going to be that much cost, because there can be time that will happen with the actual email sending, so that's a possibility. So we will call timezone.now, and then we'll say account save. Why can I, what? Utils, oh, get out of here. Okay. The LSP was not importing stuff I wanted. And, oh, that's funny. I've got two different modes for this. Huh. Let's change this to be a relative import. That way we don't have two of these things. Oops. That's right. Same thing here. We can change those to relative import and delete like that. Okay. Now we should have everything we need. Run the test. The test should pass. Great. Also, our expired jobs still pass. That's cool. So we've got a working test. So this will put us up in position where we've got, this is effectively the memory that will have sent this email. And then next time, which should be next week, I don't think I have anything going on that's special. we will actually work on sending this email, designing it out. What is it going to be? Like, I don't even know what we want to ask people yet or where to send them. Maybe we send them to the settings page. I honestly don't know. I don't know what the best place, or do we send them to a dedicated page for sign up, or do we try to send them? The problem is we can't send them straight to the Stripe page. The Stripe page requires, well, maybe we can. What would that require? We could send them to a landing page that would like auto redirect them immediately to the Stripe dashboard that has the activation. That might be the slickest approach. It might not be worth it though. Might not be worth it for now. It might be best to send them to like the settings page that has the banner that we just worked on. We worked on that banner last week that shows people, hey, this is where, this is how you can activate your stuff. Click the button. So it's one extra click, but I think that's probably okay. Okay, hopefully all of this made sense. I believe that we've accounted for all of these conditions, and so these extra test cases are just making sure that we got this filter right. That's okay. I'm okay with that. And then we'll have some to-dos here. Check that the email was not sent. Same with here. Same with here. Those are really the core elements of what we're looking for on the other side. We don't want to assert on any other state. We just want to make sure you didn't send the email, right? That's what's important. All right, so that's going to get us to getting this thing towards completion. I think what I want to do, okay, just closing it out. Also, if you're watching and you've been enjoying, please do me a favor and give me a like. Is it going to do it? Come on. Hey, that's what I'm thinking. Give me a like. That's so corny. I love it. So I think what we want to do before we can do some of these other things is I need to sign up for a service that can allow us to get some visuals very quickly. And I'm willing to pay for that because, again, I get through all your support, whether on Patreon or membership here or because you're paying for Journey Inbox. I'm trying to dump those that revenue and that profit back into directly into all this stuff. And so we'll be able to use, like, I don't know, I might even try a couple of them. Sign up for OpenAI, sign up for Midjourney, have accounts on those things. Give us a place where we can have an interaction with AI that can jam on colors, brand, think about stuff. We can do some research, and that'll actually be quite a divergence for me from what I typically do in the stream. My comfort zone clearly is like talking to you all about code, Django, writing tests. You know, that's my bread and butter. Where I get out of my comfort zone is on marketing and like how to sell this to other people and design. That's a lot fuzzier for me. So that'll be a bit more fumbly through things, but it should be still educational. We'll learn together and be able to talk about stuff. Anyway, I think that's going to wrap it for me this evening. Thank you for joining in. Hopefully, I know I certainly enjoyed the green screen, although I will adjust so I'm less green. Do the fireworks to finish it off.